I've been thinking about this question for a long time. I got a question over on the Twitterverse from Alejandro Sante. I'm saying that horribly wrong, and I am so sorry to be the person that does that. Sunte? I don't know. Regardless, Epos Fox, may I ask a question? How do you personally go about managing content strategy across multiple YouTube accounts? Curious because since I found out you had multiple channels, I've been wondering how you do it so well and make your channels unique and interesting. Well, I thank you for saying that I make it unique and interesting, because sometimes I worry that I don't. Like, I genuinely do. And that's something I struggle with, because realistically, it depends on how literally I have to interpret your question here, because when it comes to content strategy, at this point in my career, I've been doing YouTube for an absurd long amount of time. Strategy is barely a consideration. There's strategy when it comes to titles and thumbnails and like some general trends, but like I'm not plotting what content does the best. And that sacrifices some success for sure, by all means. But like I'm here to do what I love and find a way to make that work, not to do what the system wants and find a way to love it, if that makes sense. And I'm very privileged to be in this position, but that privilege came from me spending over half of my life hacking away at this YouTube thing. So it's not exactly like I'm a big major YouTuber that just gets the freedom to do whatever I want. I just have to deal with it. But unfortunately, in many ways, every time I get asked this question, I used to get asked this question, or this kind of question, a lot more before I had a kid, where I was much more of like a content machine across all of my channels, where I was posting multiple times a week to all my channels and whatever, and had a bunch of different channels going and ideas and streamed and whatever. Ever since having a kid, things have gotten more and more lax. Trying to make sure I have more me time and more ability to kind of do things well. But I used to get asked it more, but getting asked it now is really interesting, because having gotten my diagnosis in the past couple years versus the rest of my career, the answer has changed, because it keeps coming back to the same 4 letters, and it's not Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I got diagnosed with ADHD at the start of 2022, and it's something that has been blatantly obvious in retrospect to the entirety of my life, and has impacted how I do everything throughout my entire life. And a lot of that has influenced, in a way, well, in many ways, my work ethic, my work habits. Because you see, going back to high school, I didn't want to do anything. I was the cliche burned out, gifted, and talented kid, where like school was a breeze for me for the most part up until a certain point. I didn't really have to work too hard at it, and I was utterly understimulated by it. I got in trouble for talking in class too much, for wanting to play games, reading books, whatever, and doing like sitting still to focus on homework was impossible. And moving into high school and stuff, like really all I ever wanted to do was just play Halo, play RuneScape, play video games, and do fun stuff. Like I had no sense of like I want to work at anything for a very, very long time. And that led to a lot of panic when it came to career planning and whatever. And I got pushed to, I'm going to shorten this history, but I got pushed to do programming. Wasn't really my thing. I didn't have the attention span or the motivation for it. Wound up discovering YouTube. That became my sole obsession for the next 15 years of my life. That is what drives me now. I've made videos, even on this channel, the art channel. It used to be just my personal channel where I dumped like experimental stuff. And I'd made a podcast at some point, or like a tips series. And one of the things I was talking about was I would say that you would know you're in the right niche or you're doing the right thing when it comes to content when you never stopped running out of video ideas and you always had a million things to do. And not everyone really connected with this. And I didn't understand why, because back then I didn't know this was an ADHD neurodivergent thing. I thought that was just, once you found your field, that was it. But what it was hyperfixation or my special interest, as it's called. Like, this was my thing, and so that's what I obsess over. And over time, my focus on my thing has shifted a ton. Like, my main channel alone, which was not by any means my first quote-unquote main channel, but Epos Fox, it was a gameplay channel for games like Call of Duty and Halo. It was more of a general co-op let's play kind of channel with my wife. It was, for a little bit, a full-time like Pokemon news and playthrough channel. And then eventually it got converted over to tech and then focused on streaming and that kind of thing. But over time, you know, even looking back, my interests have varied a lot. But over time, my interests in general have kind of expanded. I've always been a creative. I've always been, in a way, an artist. But I never had the ability to draw. I never developed that. My drawing skills have not really developed past my terrible, cringy DBZ fan art from middle school. And so I'm working on that now. But it's really hard to do, especially when I have so many interests. Like, when you think about learning a skill, you just do the thing for, you know, a year straight, every day. You know, if you want to get better at drawing, you practice it every day. You look up tutorials, you do studies, you follow books, and you practice drawing like once a day, every day, or at least a few times a week. I can't really do that because the things that I'm interested in and the things I want to grow and learn are so varied that I have such a terrible job due to my psychology, prioritizing things, that I can't just learn to draw every day for a year because I get bored of it after a little bit and my interest wane. Like, for a week or so, yeah, I'm super interested in drawing. I want to learn. I want to master it. I want to learn how to sing. I want to do whatever. But then it shifts. I then want to play a bunch of video games and make gaming videos and whatever. And then some encoder thing catches my eye and suddenly I'm back on the horse for the main channel and I want to do all this stuff for that. And so I can't put myself in a box and stick with something as hardcore as is typically expected and is even with as common and accepted and kind of explored neurodivergence is on the internet. It very much caters to the kind of person that just has one special interest, that one person who knows everything about a specific game or franchise or a specific crafting subject or a tool or something. Those are the people that got it easy because they can just make tons of stuff about that thing and cover every aspect of it and get so much out of it as a result. And that used to be me with streaming stuff. And a lot has changed. A lot has changed. So the how-to question, I guess, being posed here is less of a here's how I do it and more of a it's my healthy outlet. It's how I balance my interests. My dream, my hardcore goal for 2024 is to get all three of my primary active channels at the moment. That's EposVox for tech and streaming, Lost Saves for gaming stuff, and Analog Dreams for arts and crafts and more personal studio time. My goal is to get all three channels sustainable enough to where I can basically just flip-flop between them based on where my heart is, for lack of a better explanation, for where my obsession is. So one week I could be all in on these crafts, but if suddenly, you know, that switch flips and I just want to dive in on a Let's Play, I want the flexibility to do that and still get my return on investment for it. Now, there is, I call it my healthy outlet. There's definitely an unhealthy side to that, in that I don't really get anything for me. It's very hard to get me time that doesn't turn into work, because the only way that I've built the life that I've had any success that that I've sustained myself in the world, is by turning my hobbies and my me time into a job, just by brute force and luck, I guess. So I don't get the privilege of having me time where it's not tied into work in some sort of way, for the most part. Like, that is turning into stuff I do with my kid, rather than me, or watching TV shows with my wife, or cooking, I guess. Like, at some point I'm going to do a little mini cooking blog, which is my recipes, but I'm trying so hard to not make it like an obligation when it comes to videos or something. But I want to share it. That's also my issue, is I am a very private person. This video is getting way too long, and I am very sorry, but I'm going to double dip. This is going to be my Saturday commentary for the gaming channel and my kind of day in the life video for the art channel, so bear with me. But I am a very private person. I do not voluntarily share a ton of information about myself online or to strangers. I don't like conversations with strangers very much. I'm an introvert. Despite being the online persona, I'm a very private person. I'm a pretty quiet person. But I have this massive internal drive to share what I'm interested in and passionate about. And I think part of that is kind of a coil spring effect coming out of middle school, grade school kind of, middle school, in, I guess, early high school, where I was pressured, bullied, and otherwise kind of encouraged to not share the things I was interested in, especially as interests became uncool. Like, my example always was, even as I went to 3 elementary schools. The last one I went to was in a pretty rough part of town, and there were a lot of fights and a lot of other stuff. But despite that, some of the nerdy stuff, like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh cards, were still cool as heck, even with the people that, you know, I would get in fights with. First day of middle school, and Yu-Gi-Oh is this big outcast thing that no one's allowed to talk about or whatever. And so those kinds of shifts in what becomes cool are very, very much led to years of me suppressing what I am interested in and what I care about, because I couldn't really share it with very many of those around me. And so perhaps it's a overcompensation for that. But I have this massive internal drive to just share the things I am excited about, interested in, and am doing and feeling rewarded by. And that leads inherently to me doing what I do online. Like, it was a perfect storm of having this opportunity to do this kind of job for a living. And so anything I'm interested in, I can find a way, if I have enough patience with it and whatever, to turn it into content and make it, you know, into something I can share. It's not all going to be successful content. Most of what I make is not deemed successful by most standards. Like, it is for me, in that even my lower view count, like gaming videos, get really thoughtful responses and stuff. And that's what I want from it. Therefore, it is successful to me. But, you know, I also have to support myself and help support my family and my kid and whatever. And so in terms of like monetary return or getting sponsors or competing with other YouTube channels, which I don't want to do, but that's, you know, we're at least looked at in that way. In terms of those things, a lot of what I do is not successful, but as long as I'm getting that out there and can then focus back on what I should be doing, it helps. This was a very long-winded answer. Like, I don't have anything productive to tell you if you're looking to learn from me to do better. You saw the state my working environment is in. My desktop is always cluttered. And people always say, like, cluttered space, cluttered mind, as if that's some sort of value judgment. Because to me, the opposite is, okay, so an empty, clean desk is an empty mind? A thoughtless mind? Like, well, what is the implication here? Yeah, my mind is cluttered. I care about a lot. I do a lot. I am passionate about a lot. I'm always working on a million different things. So yeah, my desk is cluttered. Because I'd rather spend the last hour of my working day, when I have so very few hours, working and getting the most out of what I can with what I've got, than cleaning it up so that I feel like everything's empty and sanitized again at the end of the day. I don't know. I have a lot of weird issues with like minimalism and stuff. I am definitely a maximalist kind of person. Currently trying to get some cool craft stuff going on Analog Dreams. We are pivoting it hard away from AI stuff. Trying to keep the gaming channel going. I have lots of cool ideas for it. And the response has been really good. That last PS2 mods video went pretty good for that channel. So I am very encouraged to keep it going. And it sucks because at the moment I have very little interest in the subjects of my main channel. But I do have 2 major capture card reviews coming up soon, as well as, like I said, I have a bunch of meetings today for CES stuff. So the idea is that if I can put as much time as I can into these fun things for my side channels, then I can get over it and buckle up and focus for when I need to for the main channel. I hope this was enlightening in any way, potentially encouraging or potentially discouraging if you are not neurodivergent or don't understand any of my neuroses here. But I just wanted to share. This was an intriguing question that used to I honestly rolled my eyes at and probably gave some really unfavorable responses to, because to me this was inherent to caring about what you do. And I have since grown up. I've since gotten my own diagnosis and realized that this is not how everyone feels and acts and lives. And I'm adapting. So I hope you enjoyed. This was a little bit of a weird one, but I do hope you enjoyed. And remember to be kind. Rewind. Go check out all my different channels linked below. I would appreciate support on any of them. And go check out on any of them, rather. And go check out the new revamped shop, glitch.mov. We've got photo prints. We've got the OBS Definitive Guide course. We've got these cool, dope synth rock cassette USB drives. And there's still a couple more left if you order quickly, where you get a free Epos Vox pin and desk mat along with it, which is the value of the cost of the tapes themselves. Got Lightroom presets. I got some cool sticker packs I'm putting up soon as well that I've been working on testing today in the art channel version of this video. Have a great weekend. Have a great whatever. I don't honestly know when I'm posting these, but remember to be kind. Rewind.